Went to my boss one day and I said, I need a break. I need to just have a break from this job. And she said, you're not going anywhere because you're fantastic at the job. And I decided it wasn't about the money or the career. I just needed to do something. So I took a leap of faith, stepped out of the job and kind of drifted into this a bit.
If you had the orders, you could handle the business in theory.
We could,
yeah.
I mean, I think we could grow the business by 2 to 3 times its current size with the current people, with some assistance.
Hello and welcome to the Business Growth Show.
I'm John from Octopus Computers.
And I'm Adam from Active Internet Marketing.
This is the show where we sit down with business owners, founders and entrepreneurs from Stamford and the Greater Rutland area.
We discuss their journey, look at their wins and their challenges and get practical advice that you can apply.
New episodes come out fortnightly, so if you want to stay up to date, drop us a follow or subscribe wherever you're listening.
Good morning, Andy.
Morning.
Welcome to the Business Growth Show. We'd like to start, if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. I'm Andy Bird, born and bred in Oakham. I run a company in Oakham called GTT Wireless. We're in the wireless connectivity sensing hardware business. So we take customers' devices, which can be a simple PCBA, or a router or a gateway, and put them into extreme environments, outdoor, mission critical, so connected vehicles and drone sensing devices. We build sub-assemblies in Oakham. We have a very good supply route, and we ship around the world to some leading brands. So small company, very innovative, great team, very small team, but very capable team. That's what we do.
Excellent. And I know your product's pretty unique, isn't it? I think you're quite unique in the niche that you operate in.
We are, yeah, to the point where people ask me what I do for a living and I dread telling them. Now, I had a friend in the past who said, if you can't explain what you do, what your business does, in 30 seconds, you haven't got a business. But it kind of doesn't apply to us, because when people ask me what we do, and I immediately see them glaze over, because they really don't get it.
Right.
We're in a niche business. We started in we've been around for 20 years. We started in the wireless technology when people didn't think wireless was ever going to go anywhere because of security concerns, background in procurement, in IT. And we've grown it. It was a slow growth, but now we are really motoring Brilliant. With some very key clients. So,
and tell us about some of the craziest places that you've made wireless connectable then in terms of locations.
Right. We have so many applications. We often don't know a huge amount about what the customer's doing. So We're under NDA. And they share very limited information. But I'll give you an example of one that's kind of crazy that we did recently. We got a call from a very large surveying company, in quarries, tunnels, mines, etc., on a Friday afternoon. And they said, we're really in trouble. We have committed to go and survey the integrity of a tunnel or a series of long tunnels in opencast mines in South America. And we've kind of built a solution, but we've just realised we haven't got the enclosure, which is a box with antenna built in, tuned antenna. And we've got to be there on site in 10 days. And we've got to send a robot into the mine and drop off a series of gateways, routers at certain intervals, to allow us to connect to a mesh network. Too much technical detail here.
I'm following.
But to be able to survey. So we can't send people in. We're going to send a robot in. We're going to drop your products in. We're never going to go and fetch them again. Can you help us out? And we pulled a solution together very quickly that was... So literally the robot went in, an arm came and lifted one of our products, dropped it on the floor, and then it, through the tracks, went on for dropped another one.
Wow.
And that's quite unusual. And that was really exciting because we were under a deadline to design it and integrate all their technology, which was off-the-shelf technology, but it was really exciting for us because it was quite niche and quite unique.
Yeah.
So we built it within 5 days, shipped it up to them. It was put in a case and shipped over to South America and put into a mine. That's really quite an extreme environment. Our typical inquiries take a lot longer because we go from prototype to, proof of concept.
Full engineering process, right?
Yeah, so one sample. Customers never buy more than one for a start. Take it, play with it. Then it's 10, then it's 50, then it's 100.
Yeah.
And we do have some customers that buy 1,600 pieces at one time.
Yeah.
Right.
And, they're quite an expensive chunk of technology when you've got 8 antennas built in.
Yeah, yeah.
Very extreme environments. Almost anything with connected wireless, we can accommodate.
I think that's interesting because a lot of people, I suspect, don't feel that wireless goes that far. That a lot of it perhaps is domestic or small business or that kind of commercial unit and not down a mine shaft or these extreme environments. Was that always where you wanted to position yourself going into?
Yeah, because we're an industrial supplier, so we're a B2B, business to business. We don't get involved in any consumer at all. We work with some very strong brands, router manufacturers, who market leaders in industrial routers.
Right.
The kind of thing that you see in your house, but it's built for industrial applications. And we integrate those, and they can go anywhere, literally anywhere in the world. But it's really typically industrial applications that we get involved in.
So in terms of the environment, you can make sure they withstand all sorts of dust and water and interfering substances that would get in there. Yeah,
it's a complicated world. Yeah. A very complicated world with technology. IP67, which is dust and waterproof. That's a given. Typically, router manufacturers will make IP54 so they can go in the home, in a house, but they can't go outside. But our products typically Certex 650 corrosion proof, coated, powder coated. We have EMI shielding so that the radiation can't get outside the box.
Right.
We have UL approval, which is flammability for plastic down to component level.
Wow.
And people expect these things.
Yeah.
It's not just a box, and obviously it's quite an expensive product. But all of these things often are a given. They just expect you to have UL approval for all your certification, salt spray testing, wind tunnel testing, you name it.
Yeah.
You have to go through all these tests. You have to be sure that when they're on a post that they will withstand the elements.
So how on earth did you get into that? Because that is a niche amount of engineering and a lot of regulatory compliance as well.
Yeah,
how did you?
It's kind of bizarre. I mean, my life kind of started off strange, really, because my day, 1979, when we're leaving school, it was a case of go and find a job. Bring some money in, we kept you for long enough. And a long story short, I was off ill for a couple of years. But I then went, I worked for a garage, actually. I worked for Tim Norton in Oakham, good friend of mine. Wanted to be a car mechanic and then couldn't. And I was then offered a job by a local plastics company to set up 5750 because the quality manager really liked me and thought I was a really good guy. And I thank him greatly for that. And then I got it was strange. I was talking to somebody once and about careers, thinking where would I like to go? And they said to me, well, my brother-in-law is a buyer and he's got a perfect job because he gets wined and dined and he gets to travel the world. And they sent him a bike the other day for Christmas as a gift. And I thought, that sounds like the kind of job I'd like.
It's such a shame they put a stop to that, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is really. And so I decided, well, that sounds like something I'd like to do. So I went back to university for 2 years, for 4 years, a 2-year foundation and then 2 years to finish the degree. To Montford in the evenings, and I had 2 children along the way, so it was quite tough. And then I got my CIPS qualification, and then I was lucky enough to meet somebody at college who was a buyer RS Components.
Right.
Great company, loved it there, went there, and then I very quickly elevated into the role of, I went in purchasing, and then used to manage their Far Eastern buying office in Hong Kong and Taiwan. Met lots of people, but spent my life traveling. So, it was just really tough. My son was 7 and I wanted to spend some more time at home. Went to my boss one day and I said, I need a break. I need to just have a break from this job. And she said, you're not going anywhere because you're fantastic at the job. And I decided it wasn't about the money or the career. I just needed to do something. So I took a leap of faith, stepped out of the job and kind of drifted into this a bit.
Right.
So I got approached by a company in Taiwan who said, we'd like to set up an office in the UK. We'll, part fund you. You'll own it, but we'll part fund you. And they've been two, actually, they've been very, very good to me, very close friends. And yeah, kind of drifted into it really.
Yeah. And have you had, beginning from 0 point and building up the business, which, we can both relate to, what are some of the challenges that you've faced and overcome?
Oh, massive challenges. The dark days when you go into, when I started on my own, I was working from home, trying to find clients. We did start from ground zero. Most people start from ground zero. You know. We had extended payment terms, but we've now built a very good, strong stock, which is all paid for, so we can give the service level and availability. But just tough challenges. The mental challenge of being in a big organisation with everybody around you supporting you. See, I mean, I had some great colleagues at RS, the sort of marketing and the sales and the finance people and the HR people, really clever people. And all of a sudden they're gone. Yeah. And recruitment people, getting the right people and also being able to fund them. So lots and lots of challenges, financial challenges, as well as sort of personal challenges. But it kind of makes you stronger, really. And you look back and you think, would I have done it any other way? And the answer is no. Yeah. Because where I am now makes it all worthwhile. Yeah. It really does.
Such a big shift, though, going from that big company where everyone's got their one hat that they're wearing. Right? Like you were in purchasing, so that was a very clear, I'm doing this bit, and then we'll go to marketing and see what they want. Suddenly you go out on your own and you're trying to look around to find, well, who's in charge of HR? Yeah. Oh, shit, it's me.
Yeah.
It's true across every role.
John, the same situation, right? The same situation that, if there's any HR queries, and you were living in the days before ChatGPT where you could get a guide as to how you're going to handle this. And that's a fantastic tool for sure, although you've got to be careful with it, but it does give you a guide. It gives you an element of confidence. But yeah, it was. It's really strange because you work in a corporate environment, you do your bit, you work really hard and you deliver benefit, but you really don't know anything about anything else around the business, the finance thing you touch on. If you want finance, I remember going to my boss once and saying, I need to do X, Y, Z. She was an amazing finance person. She put a spreadsheet together that was so automated. It was amazing. And I was so lucky to have her, to support me. But she got her own skill, but put her in a negotiation with some hard-nosed Taiwanese or Chinese kind of people, she'd melt. Yeah. But that's what teamwork's about. And it's really interesting because until I started in RS, I thought everybody was the same. Everybody thought the same. So why don't you just understand, or why don't you behave, or why don't you see what I see? And I realised everybody's different and you need a team. Yeah. So, and that's what I've continued to do for the last 20 years. Build the right team, and I feel now that we've got it. We've absolutely got it.
Building a business on your own, you have to take on so many varied skills and learn about so many different areas quite quickly, don't you?
Very quickly, almost on the spot, often on the spot. So I'm a big believer in control, finance, Power BI. We use massively. So I can press. I'm a great believer that everything should be available at a press of a button. Yeah, and so we've invested a lot. I've invested 20 years of profit back into the business, and I've enjoyed doing it. But now we've got a really slick business that I can keep a handle on every single KPI.
Yeah, brilliant.
Does that help you sort of keep overhead down or headcount down? Or where's the benefit?
Yeah, well, benefit is sleep at night.
That sounds lovely. Tell me more.
Lovely, yeah. Because if you, I again, another guy that I met at RS said, you only worry about things you don't understand, and and I kind of picked up on that. So waking in the night and thinking, my freight cost has gone up excessively this month. Why is that? Or has it, rather? Yeah. Well, now I could just, if I wake up in the night, and sometimes I do, I go, that's bothering me. Well, no, it's within the parameters. And I sat on the board of a credit union once for a short amount of time, and I learned so much about about policies and governance, and balanced scorecards, which led me on to Power BI. Yeah. So you set your parameters, red, amber, green. If it's amber, look at it. If it's green, don't even look at it. If it's red, you've got a big problem. And picking up from other people's skills and advice, So yeah, it's for me, it's about control, just knowing exactly where you are and where the trends are, where you're tracking, where you're going, really, in effect.
It's kind of my next question, really. So what are your long-term goals with the business? Where would you like to be in the future at various points?
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting one because I'm 64 this year. I love the job. I like working with the team. I like solving customers' problems. But ultimately, I'm going to have to think about my exit strategy. And so I'm trying at the moment to build the business in such a way that it can run without me. And I'm very, very close to doing that. It's taken me a long time. It's taken me 5 years, but really focused over the last 12 months. So that I can just dip in when I want. Work 2 hours a day, probably. Grow the team. Past that, I really don't know what I'm going to do. I don't think it's a business that I necessarily want to sell. And because my relationship with our suppliers is very built up over 20 years, there's a lot of trust. They say to me, that's a big asset. You're a big asset. The fact that we can trust you. So I'm really probably going to be around for a lot longer, but in a smaller capacity, I think.
On your own terms, perhaps?
On my own terms, yeah.
And what about the personal side? Will you be sat on a beach and just logging in for 2 hours a day? Or?
Maybe. I mean, I've got an old classic car. So in the summer, when the sun's shining, I've got a 50-year-old BMW, and I love that car, and I polish it and I tune it and I do whatever I can do to it.
Which one is it? Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I've always had a passion. When I left school, my boss then, Tim Norton, had a BMW 2002 Turbo. They're a very valuable piece of kit now. There's only 1,600 of them built. And it was, I just dreamt of having one. One day when I'm successful, I will have one of those. It's still on my radar. I have to think very carefully about how I explain it to my wife when it turns up in the garage. But I've always wanted one. And then 4 years ago, I thought, right, now is the time. Kids have left home. They've got their own houses and their jobs and stuff. And I'm going to buy one. So it was during lockdown, actually, and I saw it. I'd been looking for months and months and months and months. And I saw it during lockdown, and it was at the time where we weren't allowed to go out. But I thought, well, okay, it's in Birmingham. I've got to jump in because this one looks nice. Went to see the guy, went and picked it up, put it on the back of the trailer. Spent quite a bit of money and time perfecting it, but it gives me so much pleasure. Yeah. So if I lived in a really warm country like Spain or something and I had that, I wouldn't need anything else. Absolutely wouldn't. I'd just sit there and look at it, drive it, whatever. But unfortunately, in the UK, limits how much you can use it because you can't use it in the wet. It's not ideal. So that's one passion. I like cycling as well. I would like to travel the world. So even though I have done extensively in my jobs, I'd like to. My closest pal is a Taiwanese guy called Mike Chang, who used to work for me. We've got this plan that we're going to travel. So we're just going to have 3 or 4 days. I'll go to Taipei for a meeting. We'll go to the Philippines for a few days, or we'll go to. In fact, we popped over to Bali about a year ago for 3 or 4 days, did some travelling. So that's what I'd like to do. That's where I want to be. And if I can get the business so that I can just dip in when I need to, that's my dream. That's where I want to be from now on.
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. Please remember to like, give us a rating, give us a follow and subscribe wherever you're listening if you're enjoying the show. How would you go about to achieve the dream, like this automation piece? How have you approached it? Because it sounds like it's working.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't manage that level of running itself.
Yeah.
How have you approached it?
The industry is quite complex. And the reason that I say we don't have a competitor because it's niche and it's below the radar of most people. Because every configuration in 20 years, until recently where we've got very close to some router manufacturers that we do off-the-shelf products, everything's been different. And that causes a problem because you think our customers are all over the world. Okay, this morning, a new customer from Italy wants to buy some products. Okay, so, and this was pre-Teams, pre-COVID, where people really didn't like to even jump on a phone call. It all was email. So actually talking about their specifications is really difficult because we've got hundreds of products. We've got hundreds of different components that we can configure. So we built, we call it BTC, built to configure tool. Okay, which was built in SolidWorks. We're now moving to an even better one, which we're about to launch anytime. Where customers can go physically build 3D model of their product, press a button, and get a drawing and a 3D step file, and that is immensely useful because when they come and say, like the one this morning said, we'd like to buy one of your enclosures, it's one of those. Well, that's just a box, a die-cast box with holes in it. It's no use to anybody without components, obviously. Yeah. So we just point them to the tool. So they then configure it, and then we get an email to say, Fred's configured this product. Then Kyle, my operations manager, builds it, talks to them, sends it out, ships it, we record it. So we've got full traceability. I'm big into automation, really big into automation. In fact, Kyle and I at one time did just short of 2 million turnover. Kyle works 4 days a week between the two of us, just short of 2 million turnover.
Brilliant.
We wouldn't do it again. It was unfortunate the way it worked out, but we are so slick and organised that we can do that because I've invested in so much automation and technology.
So in terms of scale, within the products you've got, you said that there's hundreds of different configurations using the varied options that you've got there. And it's then there's no limit to that scale other than people? Can you bring more people in? If you suddenly had 4 million of opportunity, you could bring people in and you could handle that growth in theory?
Yes, we could. Yeah. We could. Yeah. We've got Nick in marketing and we've got Luke on the commercial side. The void would be building. Now, Kyle is very efficient, very good guy. But we've started to train an assistant for him.
Right.
Because they get a drawing land on their desk, basically. The customer's configured it. There's never any turn and fro. Well, that's what you wanted because you configured it online, and that's what we built. So there's never any, you've missed this component or you've done this wrong.
Yeah.
We just build it. It's black and white copy. And I think actually we will need to start to, recruit people to help build over the next few weeks.
If you had the orders, you could handle the business in theory.
We could, yeah. I mean, I think we could grow the business by 2 to 3 times its current size with the current people, with some assistance.
Might have a fleet of BMWs.
So yeah, it's very, very, very slick, slick and organised. In fact, I've got a friend who worked for a big corporate before, and I showed him our Power BI, and he just sat there with his mouth open and said, "You have better controls than some large corporates." And we get support from Innovate UK and various people coming in, say, "Okay, you're a technology company. We're going to give you some support." When they come in, the first thing I do for an hour is set the scene by telling them how slick we are. And quite often they look and go, wow, what am I going to teach this guy? Yeah. But they do. I always learn something from the arrangement.
If there were other people listening and they also work on, especially on this international trade level, because I think that's the first point where I think a lot of people struggle. They work quite nationally, and then when it comes to import and export, it gets almost overwhelming because of all the regulations. Have you got any advice for anybody to start trying to navigate that?
Yeah, I must admit, even though I was in an international procurement role and I had a fairly good handle on it, there was quite a few things that caught me out, things that I didn't know that were handled by finance or whatever. And in terms of advice, you've got to build a network. You've got to build a network of suppliers that you can trust. We're lucky that 99% of our products come from one source, one very clean. We have a clean supply chain.
Yeah.
So we don't chop and change. Because it doesn't not sort of build a relationship when you chop and change. Really, we're not into the commodity industry sector. We're into high end. We have a great team of about 10 engineers in our office in Taiwan who are very good at what they do, and we stick with them. we very rarely, and I can say it in 20 years, hand on heart, we've only had 1 or 2 issues with terms of quality, and they were oversights, minor oversights. But because we have this very strict rule about quality, we react very quickly to anything like that. In terms of advice, learn. I kind of learn off deferment accounts. I never knew about VAT deferment accounts, how complex they were, how you have to have them underwritten by the bank and so on and so forth, so you can defer your VAT, and HMRC guarantee they're going to get their money. Even though I've got plenty of money in the bank, I still have to have the deferment account and pay for it, and pay to have it underwritten. But for me, it's I was lucky. I travelled through Asia. I managed 80 suppliers. During my time in those days, they really respected me, and were sort of almost queuing up to say, we trust you. It's all about trust. We want you to work for us, and I was pushing them back quite often. And but it's very difficult to say, could I give any advice to anybody? I think you've got to know the market. You've got to travel a lot, push a lot of money into it, to learn where to go and who you can trust, and so on and so forth.
A lot of it's about those strong supplier relationships and
absolutely
trust, like you said. So
absolutely.
To throw another one at you, how do you build trust?
Well, by being honest.
Yeah.
I always have been. I've always been very fair. You can imagine it's interesting because I always wanted to be a buyer because you got took out for meals and you travelled. When I did my CIPS qualification, he absolutely signed that you do not do that. Yeah. It was a real surprise to me. I was working in the automotive industry, fairly low-level job, thought the world was, do whatever you want, but actually it isn't like that. And I've been, during my career in procurement, I've been approached by a number of people who had offered various incentives for doing various things, particularly in Asia in those days. They don't do it now. Maybe they don't do it now because they know that I'll say no, but I was always squeaky clean. And sorry, that's very kind of you, but I'll sign the purchase order if you do the best job. And, and it always worked for me. And I always describe it as a bit of like a pyramid, really, with dealing with Taiwanese, or people from Asia generally, but because we deal with Taiwanese and China, we have an office in China, that you get tested along the way. So, you might get a random email that comes in from a competitor that's been sent to test you. That's the way I always felt. I'm sure it wasn't that way, but that's always felt. And not answering that email, you then got another peg. And I think I'm pretty close to the top of there, just because I'm squeaky clean. What you see is what you get. Always have been, always will be.
Trust and reputation so crucial, no matter what you do in business, isn't it?
Yeah, I pay my invoices on time, always. We moved our freight forward, and the lady there was chasing me, saying, "Oh, you're 3 days late." Well, we have a payment run on the 8th or the 9th of the month, and sometimes it's the 10th if it's over a weekend or something happens. And very quickly she realised, actually, I don't need to chase this guy anymore because they just pay. I pay a lot of invoices in advance. We've got the cash. Why hold it in the bank? So yeah, it's all about trust. It's about running a business that's very, the companies that I deal with and always have dealt with in Taiwan are professional, very, very professional. Some of them stock listed companies have very, very strict rules and regulations about what they can do. I learned a lot from them, a hell of a lot from those guys. A lot from those guys.
And you deal with some quite large corporate clients as well, don't you? So I guess they have quite clear expectations of you. Yeah.
There's, we supply antenna to Panasonic, smart city applications as one that I feel comfortable with. We supply samples to Google for special projects that obviously I can't talk about. But we have a lot of customers, huge customers in drone security. Drone security is a big thing. What a surprise at the moment. So we supply base stations into that. Tilt sensing boxes in rail network and tunneling and all sorts of things. We have some very, very good customers. We have But yeah, excellent customers.
I think the demand's only going to grow, right? Like the need for this connectivity seems to be on the up.
It's really interesting because I've always been quite negative about marketing, okay? Only because, and I make this statement every time, people, Nick particularly, is tired of hearing it, that if I'd never spent any money on marketing and PR in the last 20 years, I'd have £1 million in the bank saved from that. Yeah. Okay. And then Nick joined me and said, I can make a difference. And in one ear and out the other, I heard it all before. Nick's been with us 2 years now. And, it's been a tough 2 years because I've pushed her really hard. But we are turning a corner, a fantastic corner. Yeah. So it's almost like a leap of faith. I felt like I was climbing the Taipei 101 building without a rope. You can't turn back. Once you start this marketing, if you stop, you'll never know whether it's a success or not. So you've got to see it through. You're going to get to the top. You've got to get to the end. It is a growth market. We've had a great product, but we've been hidden away. We're a small company in Rutland. We've got some key accounts, but how do you find them, or how do they find us, more importantly? Because we can't find customers. We can entice customers to come and find us, really, in effect. Because finding a customer that wants our product at that time, at that stage in the development cycle, is impossible. I've invested even further money in marketing over the last 2 years, and boy, is it showing a return now.
Brilliant.
Before Nick joined, we used to get one inquiry, typically a new customer inquiry, one every 6 months. Now we're getting 3 or 4 a day.
Wow.
A day. To the point where I'm going to have to talk to John, who supplies our IT, about how we can automate even further our response times to give them that kind of level of response that they want. But yeah, it's growing and it's very exciting because they're all different applications. Amazing. I talked about the tunnel thing with the robot. It was so exciting for us to be able to offer a solution quickly. But every time they come in, they are of a different type of application.
That's such a huge growth curve in terms of lead generation, though, from 1 every 6 months to 3 or 4 a day.
Yeah.
Is there a single sort of secret sauce that did it, or is it a culmination of a lot of effort?
Oh, I think it's just a culmination of a lot of effort. I mean, I think I'm allowed to say this, but LinkedIn is quite a good route to use. But we don't do a massive amount at it because we have been so busy putting in the BTC tool and everything else ready for all of this. So we've spent 2 years, as well as touching in the market, well, more than touching, doing a lot of marketing, but not really absorbing ourselves in it, putting the infrastructure in place because I know it's going to go well. Some days we get 3 or 4, sometimes, but it's typically 3 or 4 a week, but they're good quality. Yeah. They're good quality.
Brilliant.
And so I'm now converted. I now believe that marketing in our business absolutely has a future if we want to grow. And I'd like to grow it 2 to 3 times, and then I can sit back. I can build a team because you can't run a business unless you've got a team. That's the thing. And you can't afford a team without the business. So it's that chicken and egg thing. You've got to find those customers that give you the critical growth, critical mass that you need to build a team of good people that can come in. They're going to turn up in the morning. They're going to do the best thing for you over and over again, day in, day out, and then I can back off. So, but I'm definitely converting on the marketing side now, absolutely. And I'm quite proud of what we've achieved, what Nick's achieved.
No, it should be, definitely, Yeah, I know she works a lot at it. Is there anything brand new or an innovation or a different niche or an angle that you're looking at exploiting, or anything new you want to mention? Yeah,
absolutely. We do quite a bit of MPI, and it's expensive. By the way, there's always tooling cost. We've had some very small grants, some support.
What's MPI?
New product introduction.
Right.
So our traditional business was die-cast enclosures. They're expensive. They are really for mission critical, for applications that have a very high processing power and get hot. So they're heat dissipators, so they get rid of the heat. And that is niche. And it's really interesting because I thought that business is just going to sit fairly level, and it has done for many years. We need something new. So we got into, we took some samples of the competitors' products and we improved them. We now have a polycarbonate alternative, which is lighter for shipping, lower cost, with embedded antenna, and we designed a printed circuit PCB adapter board for Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
Tooled up with Rutland Plastics. They did a fantastic job for us. We're launching that at the moment. Everything's slow in our business. It takes time. So we can fit any Teltonica router device in our plastic and die-cast enclosures, any Raspberry Pi device, and the customer can take that Raspberry Pi printed circuit board, put it outside within minutes, and communicate via cellular network. So that's super exciting. You know, cellular Raspberry Pi manufacture 1 million computer boards a year. And we're sort of stepping in because typically our demand was very spiky.
Right.
And you get some real highs and some relative lows. And overall, yes, great. But I wanted to take out the peaks and troughs. So to do that, I wanted more of a sort of, I call it a retail. It's not a retail product. It's business to business. But more of a product with a more stable...
Consistent churn.
Churn, yeah.
A bit more entry level, I guess, as well.
It is entry level.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's entry level. It's not a $300 product.
Yeah.
It's a $100 product. So we took the competitor's product, we made it out of better plastic, we made it from stainless steel components, we tuned the antenna so that the performance of the antenna is far in excess. And it was really interesting because the first time we tested it, I've got to tell you this story. The guys with the robot under the tunnel, they said, "Can you produce it?" And they didn't ask us to test it, but we actually, because it was literally it's not going to be based on the wall where most of our things are, up where it's, you know, touching the... we just dropped it on the floor out of the office and connected the Wi-Fi. So just threw it on the floor, basically outside the door, and walked across the car park and just signaled to see how far we could get before the Wi-Fi signal dropped out. You know, we got to something like about 70 or 80 meters from memory, and it was still picking up a Wi-Fi just thrown on the floor.
Brilliant.
And that's that antenna technology, thanks to our smart engineering team, that can design products that are really optimized, because antenna design is really quite special.
Yeah.
So
if you're in a tunnel, you're immediately in an environment that's tough, aren't you?
Yeah, and we said to the customer, we can't guarantee it'll work. What we can do is produce you something. We'll charge you a non-returnable engineering fee for doing the work. We'll build it. We'll put it all together for you, ship it. But actually, you're on your own because we don't know the environment. We have absolutely no idea. And they said, well, that's good enough for us. So we went ahead and did it. But, you know, to have a Wi-Fi signal so far out, when you just throw it on the floor outside the work, because literally that's out where it was going to be installed. So we're doing a lot more of that. And that makes the job a lot more interesting, a lot more special. And that's part of the fun. But I think we're coming to a point where, not an end of that, but we've got enough MPI to take us through the next 5 to 10 years, I would say, new product.
Brilliant.
Launches.
Are those the bits of the job that you still enjoy the most? Those sort of interesting challenges, or is it seeing the dashboard coming together? Is it the automation?
It's everything.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the dashboard, the Power BI, the concept of me, I want to be able to press a button and see what everything's doing in this business. And somebody told me once, you know, pilot's flying a plane, he's got thousands of dials and switches and knobs and stuff. But he's only looking at 2 or 3. It might be wrong. It might be 10. I don't know, but it's irrelevant. And if one of those shows a sign of going outside tolerance, then he goes to another dial, and then he goes to another dial. And that's the way I try to run the business. So I have a dashboard for reporting. If anything looks strange, click. I can then go and drill down even further and say, why is this cost? Why has this increased? Why have we had such a fantastic month? What have we been talking about? You know, what have we been promoting? So I love that. I hate going looking for stuff. I just have to have it, press of a button. I like talking to customers. I like new challenges. And I just like to see the business grow. I think the overall thing is having the comfort that you've got that comfort blanket of cash, you know, that your cash flow is growing and your cash pile is kind of there. You have a bad month. Yeah, you have a bad
war
month.
chest, I call it.
Yeah, war chest. Yeah, and you've got to have it, because if you if you don't, you know, it can be quite concerning, because, you know, you got people that rely on you to pay their mortgage, and that's really important to me. That
definitely,
you know.
Oh, that's brilliant. If people wanted to find out more about GTT, where can they go and how can they get in touch?
Yeah, gttwireless.com. Mm-hmm. Look at our website. We've got all of our products. It's continuously evolving because we've got lots of new things coming along. Give us a call. I mean, it's interesting because we don't have any local customers. 30% of our business is probably UK, 30% US, 30% Europe. I got a call once from the local bus company say, would you like a banner on the back of the bus? And I was like, do your homework, love. I mean, we're not going to sell to people that are, travelling on the bus to get the shopping in Stamford on a Friday, going to the Stamford market. But yeah, we've got all the information on the website. We're here to help. We love to find solutions to problems. Give us a call.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
That wraps up another episode of the Business Growth Show. Thanks for joining us.
We hope it gave you some ideas or inspiration that you can take away and use in your own business.
Don't forget to drop us a like, a follow, and a rating, and hopefully we'll see you soon for the next episode.